Welcome to Innovate Marketing Daily, where we bring you the latest news and happenings in the world of branding, marketing, and business growth. Brought to you by MyPodcast.Media and Birdwell Solutions. And now your host, Benny Pacala.
I'm Benny from Birdwell Solutions, where we partner with large companies to build products that leverage emerging technology. Now let's dive in. The United States announced a major breakthrough in fusion technology. For the first time ever, energy went in and more energy came out. All right, so let's break this down. So fusion is a process. It's a nuclear process. It's actually the opposite of fission. So within nuclear power plants, a process called fission happens, where a large atom is broken into smaller atoms, which creates energy. But unfortunately, it also creates a lot of radioactive waste. The opposite of this product is called fusion. It's also what the sun does, where it takes two atoms and it combines them to create one atom, which creates energy, creates heat. So for the first time ever on Earth, we've replicated what the sun can do, and we've successfully performed fusion. Super cool. All right. So this is actually something that we've known was possible for a long time, but we weren't sure if it could be replicated on Earth. We weren't sure the limits of human technology, the limits of an imperfect environment here on Earth, right? That has gravity, that has atoms, unlike the vast emptiness of space. So we've known about this for a long time, but for the first time ever, within a lab, within the National Ignition Facility in California, they were able to focus 2.05 megajoules of energy, of laser light, into a tiny capsule, which created an explosion that created 3.15 megajoules of energy, so more energy. This is a major milestone for physics. Not only is this an example of humans doing something that we've never done before, but if fusion works, this will fundamentally change the energy industry. Because fusion energy is clean, right? It has no radioactive byproducts, whereas nuclear power plants that use fission do have radioactive. Because fusion is clean, if it can become commercially viable, there's no reason that it won't become widespread and become the new source of energy. The components that are used to make fusion are hydrogen, which is incredibly abundant. It's in water. I mean, it's everywhere, right? So we would have an endless supply of clean energy, and it would forever change our reliance on fossil fuels and carbon-emitting energy sources. Now, I chose to talk about this. Of course, it's monumental in science, but also I wanted to break down the industry effects of something like this. So, of course, as I mentioned, this is an impact to the energy industry. This shows that as more innovative solutions arise and we push the limits of what's possible, that there will be new forms of energy. And the good news here is that this is a clean energy source, which is so important for the world right now. It's also interesting in the fundraising ecosystem, and especially when you compare it to other renewable energy sources, such as solar. So if we come back to the example with the sun for a moment. So fission is what's happening inside the sun. It's creating heat, also light. So that same reaction that's happening, we're also capturing that energy with solar. Of course, we're capturing much less of the sun's energy with solar than we would if we were at the core of the sun. But we're actually already capturing energy as a result of fission through solar, which is also clean, which is also renewable. Looking at fission, in an artificial plant now, we also have to compare it to solar. We have to say, okay, great. Well, this is an energy source that could be used, that's clean, that could replace fossil fuels, but so could solar, right? So looking at the trend of how much it costs to create energy using these processes, solar is doing fantastic already. Solar energy is already really affordable, and it's projected to become amazingly affordable in the coming few decades. So as an investor, how does this affect me as somebody that is in the startup ecosystem? It makes me think like an investor and think, okay, well, while fusion is exciting. It's interesting. It's projected that it might be commercially viable by the late 2030s, 2040s. So a long ways away. Some people might be a little bit more optimistic than that, but that's what I believe. So I could either do fusion, I could invest in fusion, which has a lot of developing to do, or I could invest in solar, which is already proven, already viable, already scalable. And by the projections, predictably has a much lower cost per energy generated than this incredibly complicated process of fusion. So I think that's interesting. I think that with a new technology, it's really fun to break down how it actually affects industry, how it actually affects the world. So high level, like I explained, it really doesn't affect anything right now. This fusion technology isn't going to be viable for several decades. And we already are capturing energy from the process of fusion through solar, even though, right, in that case, the fusion is not happening on Earth, it's happening in the sun. But we're still capturing energy from solar. And in the near term and in the short term and the medium term, solar energy is going to be more affordable. So that's just interesting. And as a startup, right, if you're thinking, hey, do I create a new product using solar or do I create a new product using fusion? The answer is still solar, right? There's still a lot more opportunity in solar. Again, in the short term and the medium term. In the long term is really hard to predict. So that's my breakdown. And I think this applies to companies that are launching new products in the sustainability space. It applies to investors that invest in energy. Of course, it applies to energy companies that are always needing to invest in the newest and latest thing in order to stay at the cutting edge. So we'll watch as this develops for insights that apply to those businesses, and also think how, scientific discoveries, all the hype they get, how they actually apply to our own industries and what that means for any business that's growing. As always, if your business is launching a new tech product and looking for a trusted team to deliver, let us know. We'd love to help. So that's everything for today. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for joining us on Innovate Marketing Daily, where we bring you the latest news and what's happening in the world of marketing and branding and business growth. On behalf of everyone at MyPodcast.Media and Birdwell Solutions, we'd like to thank you for joining us and invite you to join us Tuesdays through Fridays every week. Find us online at MyPodcast.Media for all of your podcast production needs. And for all of your Web3 development needs, visit birdwellsolutions.com.